Guys, welcome back to video 2 in the Mindset and Motivation series that I'm doing with my lovely wife, AnnMarie. You look beautiful today.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to do this video with you.
Fun.
Guys, I hope you're excited about this series as much as we are. This is actually just video 2, and we're going to do a follow-up video on the first video. In the first video, AnnMarie spent some time and she introduced the 4 main motivation types that people have. And these 4 types, or these 4 different ways of showing up, really dictate your way of being, and it really influences how you're going to do real estate and really anything in life.
Anything.
And it was really great because you broke these down and you talked about how we can present these in our lives, from the best in us, from the worst in us. And we got a lot of questions in the comments from that video asking more about what type they were, how to identify what type they are. And so I thought on this video it'd be great if we could dive a little deeper into the different motivation types, try to understand and identify which one you are, which one you resonate with, and then maybe some ways that you can then use that information and that understanding to then show up better in your real estate business and in your life.
For sure. And before we go into the specifics of that, I think it is also important for us to understand why you need to know about those motivations and just the real tool that they are in the way that we kind of take some shame out of our way of being when we just understand that there are 4 patterns, 4 basic patterns that our nervous system presents to us. And each one of us has one story that is presented a little bit more often. And that comes from, like we talked about in the previous video, your family of origin. It comes a little bit from your genetics. And so everything gets really muddled inside our head when we're having these thoughts that are presented to us from our frontal cortex that are pushing us out of our comfort zone, helping us to choose, make decisions, do risky things, and whether or not something's coming from the back of our brain, which is our reptilian, primal, more focused in security, more focused in doing things that are familiar, that will keep us safe. And so because it's so complex and we don't always have the opportunity to be talking to another coach, being able to see the pattern of each one of these motivations just makes it a lot more simple to be able to define, hey, is this anxiety coming from a creative, developed, good part of me? Or is this anxiety just coming from the story that my nervous system is presenting to me to try to keep me alive or keep me comfortable?
And I think that's important because for one, I used to think that if you ever felt uncomfortable or fearful or anxious or stressed, that automatically was like a bad thing. Like we avoid that at all costs.
Right.
A lot of people live life that way. They're like, I got to avoid this at all costs. It's something's going wrong, something's bad. And that's not necessarily the case.
No, it's not true at all. It's just our nervous system presenting sometimes valuable information to us. But if we just take that knowledge and we just react to it, that's exactly what it is. It's just reflexive and it's not necessarily intentional. The thing that makes us human is that we have a prefrontal cortex, that we have the ability to be able to choose and make meanings out of these ideas that we're getting from our more primal, reflexive nervous system kind of self.
So let's do this. Could you quickly go through the 4 types again as a refresher? Again, watch the first video. There's a link in the description to this playlist. That was a really great explanation, but maybe briefly describe the 4 different motivation types. But then let's get into how to identify. How do you know what you are? It's interesting because in the work I've seen you do with a lot of our mentoring students in our real estate fast track program, a lot of people, they think they're one type or they want to be one type. They want to identify as one type. But then the more you kind of ask a series of questions or get to the bottom of it, oftentimes it's a deceiver and there's actually something else going on.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of common to misidentify something.
Totally. It can get complicated because a lot of times it's actually just a really normal part of having this dynamic of 2 different objectives inside your brain to have shame, for sure, over what it is, who we actually are and who we think that we should be. And so when we get a little bit more clear about what our motivation is, what our virtues are, what our vices are, it helps to get rid of some of that shame and just be able to accept, hey, we need lots of different ways of being, and there's good in this and there's not good in this. And it helps you to just be able to see a little bit more clearly what is good And when you live off of that, what is good, it's also really satiating, really invigorating. So you start to be able to tell the difference between, I'm doing this because it's what I think other people think I should do, or I'm doing this because it is who I am. It resonates with me.
It's just learning how to live with your truth.
Yeah. And you can see examples, really simple examples of this in like the animal kingdom. Bugs, for example, you look at bees and you have bees that are born queen bees, or they're born drones, or they're born, worker bees. And that is the reflexive nervous system part of them that has like a job, a purpose. No choice. They're driven towards that. But then because we are humans, we get to take our prefrontal cortex and we get to direct that drive that's within us, and we get to use it for good. We get to use it as an indulgent way to reinforce the animal part of us. And we also, because we can discern and we can make choices about the goodness of each of those different ways of being, it does actually also allow us to develop some of the attributes in some of the other types. So some people were asking questions about, is it possible that I have more than one type? Yes, for sure. It's the ultimate to get to the place where you can develop a little bit of every type. But really, I think everybody still has a pretty dominant first type. We also have a secondary type, which I'll talk about probably in another video, that a lot of times is a rebound of the shame for not feeling good enough about your first type. But we have that dominant one because that really is the thing that resonates with us the most, that gives us that huge feeling of like, I'm in the right place, I'm doing what I really want to be doing. But we also definitely can look around us when we're not having that shame and be able to actually value the ways of being in all of the different motivation types. So it's a really valuable tool. I think it helps simplify things a lot when you can see these patterns in yourself, you see them in other people. So let's dive into them, and I will explain, just because this is not a personality profiling. It's not so much about behaviors, different behaviors that people do, but more trying to figure out why you do what you do. So we could explain each of the types in a really simple example of just like when I start coaching with people, I'll ask them, why do you drink milk? It's kind of a silly example, but you can see the difference in each of the motivation types, not just because, of course, all people can drink milk, but it's more about like, why would you drink milk? What drives you? What do you love, not love about drinking milk? And then when we use a simple example of that with milk, we can kind of transfer that over into real estate.
Let's use milk.
Okay, so for type 1, ones are for fun. Ones are for experience. Maybe experience is even a better word than fun. So a type 1 would probably go to the fridge and they might bounce as they went, feeling the sensation in their bounce. They might fling the fridge door open, slug some milk back with, frothy foam and feeling the bubbles as it goes down, the cold. They might describe, oh, that's so cold, and be able to really feel the sensation.
I mean, a nice, tall, cold glass of milk.
I know, you're feeling
that's
it.
Something.
This guy's got some type 1 motivation inside of him for sure. So it's just a lot about the physicality of it, the experience of
sensations in your body.
Yeah, sensations in your body, sensations like sensory, sensations of the taste, the temperature, just being able to really experience that. And for sure,
so
having
ones are driven for that. Their internal compass, their innate drive is to have experience.
Variety. Yeah, variety, experience, and I do think they're driven towards joy, positivity. Like that is an emotion that is especially motivating for a type.
So that's a 1.
Okay?
What about a 2 with milk?
So a 2 is gonna, carefully, intentionally walk to the fridge door, open it, making sure not to break it, making sure not to hit anybody else with the fridge door. They're gonna get, the cold glass. They're gonna already have gotten a bunch of other glasses, offer that milk to other people. As they drink it, they might be reminiscing and remembering about connective times that they've had with their grandma when they had milk at grandma's house with some warm cookies. And it's a lot more, you hear the theme of connection. You hear
relationships with people.
Yes, relationships, familiarity. That's
service.
Why we're nostalgic. Yes, motivated by service. So and I'm still, mostly saying all the good parts of each of the types. And then I guess we can go back and talk a little bit, or, maybe the worst of a type 2 then is that they spend so much time giving milk to everybody else that they miss out on having the experience of
because remember, there's the best in us and the worst in us. So maybe for a 2, they can be taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm. They can become codependent.
Codependency's common.
Totally miss their own experience because they're so involved in somebody else's experience with the milk.
Undeveloped type 2s can be in unhealthy relationships where they're taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Where they're over servicing people sometimes is the unhealthy side.
Right, because they're trying to reiterate and validate the story that their nervous system is presenting to them, that they have worth or they are good enough when they are connected with other people and when what other people think about them. And so maybe we should go back and just talk a little bit about the type 1. The worst in a type 1 is that, maybe they don't think about anybody else having a glass of milk. They're so into the experience that they're having alone that they forget to share it with other people. They might...
Indulgent.
Yes, they might just think that experience is so amazing and good that they just keep slugging. And the other things that need to get done during the day are not as much of a priority because that experience is so compelling.
Yeah. Underdeveloped ones can often have addictive tendencies.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different types that can have addictive purposes. It's just more why a type 2 would have addictive issues.
Or a 1.
Or a 1 would have it more because, they feel compelled almost in like a addictive way to have things be happy all the time.
If you're indulging your experience, then you might be playing too much and not doing the other serious things in life.
Yeah.
So you can see here, when you understand it, you could see how you could go, extreme one way or extreme another way.
Totally.
And not either be healthy with it or unhealthy with it. And that's part of why it's so important to recognize
and see the
understand
patterns.
These.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a 1 and a 2. That takes us to motivation type 3, which is for action's sake. It's for doing sake. It has a lot of movement. So type 3 is going to have the same kind of like stomp towards the fridge, fling that fridge door open. Is so much movement. It's just about getting into the fridge, slugging that milk down. Also probably not going to worry about something so conventional as a glass because we're so driven to move and get that milk down. Probably might miss out on a lot of the sensation of the milk because we're just feeling so satiated by doing and getting the glass done that then when it's all done, you kind of are like, what just happened there?
So if you drink out of the milk container without a glass, leave a comment and let us know. Yeah.
Jerry's also got some of type 3 in him. Those are
3s are often very competitive.
Yes.
So a little bit of the unhealthy side might be overly competitive. Step on people to get something done. That can be an unhealthy part of a 3 tendency. But very driven to do things, accomplish, win.
Yeah, really do. I mean, you can have any behaviors with any type, but they do seem to be really motivated to move their body. Like the way that they embody movement is actually by moving their body, and they like to run marathons and
very active, physically active often.
A lot of times, not always. You can have any type that likes to run marathons. It's just the reason that they like to run a marathon is because they like to move. They like to win, accomplish, get something done. And so, a type 3 too, when they're flinging that fridge open to just get to the milk, they might hit somebody behind them or something like that. But
or push somebody out of the way to get to the last glass of milk.
Exactly. So that's the worst in a 3. And then that brings us to motivation type 4. And that is to do things the right way, to be motivated about feeling safe and secure in something being done just how it should be.
Either the right way or it's the right thing.
Yes, right way or right thing. So the way a type 4 would have a glass, or the reason they'd have a glass of milk, would be because it's healthy, because it's intentionally bringing magnesium or calcium into their bodies, and they've thought through that it's organic and that it's got, all of these different filtering things through it to make sure it's just the right.
And you should And you should only drink milk after 5 o'clock
and they'd probably
Tuesdays
be telling
and Thursdays.
Everybody and definitely
and
making
2% milk is the right milk.
Right. And making sure that other people know the right way. So the worst in a 4 can be bossy and be using that ability that they have to see patterns in things being the right way to then validate themselves by other people also doing that.
Or judgmental 4s can be very judgmental because they think there's only one right way, so that the way everybody else does something might not be right.
Yeah, but the good in a type 4 is that they're an integrator and they do know all the things. So they know what's inside the milk. They're going to do it the right way. They'll probably have just the right glass that is already measured out. However many ounces is just the right amount of milk, and they've thought about that beforehand.
It's fair. Everybody gets an equal amount of milk.
Yes, it's streamlined. It's intentional. It's very thought out, intellectual. I think probably lots of engineers are a type 4.
Let's do one more example using, I've heard you use this example, loading up in the car to go somewhere.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, so the thing that we talked about a little bit last time, I think, is just that any project that you're trying to move forward, and what we're trying to move towards is to be able to describe about like the different real estate projects that you're trying to do. But any project we're trying to do needs a little bit of all of that energy, or can suffer from the worst in any of that kind of motivation.
So the world turns with all 4 types.
It does. Right? And when you're really aware of that, then you can see where there are things that are lacking and be able to bring more people that have those kinds of gifts into your project, or realize I need to confront myself, and this is an area where I need to develop some more of these types. So like, for example, in our family, when it's time for everybody, 10 kids, it gets a little crazy and we're trying to get ourselves all out the door. Everybody will just kind of instinctively move into what they need to do to get that project done. Just like a hive of bees all works together on their own specific jobs. And when everybody's doing the best of their job, then it's a really effective, good experience.
And it can be challenging if you're front loaded with any one type, then there can be some conflict, which is why you're saying, having
to merge and balance.
Having the types or learning how to balance out the types can be very effective in things.
For sure. So like in our family, I might come in with some systems and I've got spreadsheets, or there's bins in the car that need to be filled with all the things that we need for when we're going out with diapers and that many kids.
Do we have diapers? Do we have water? Do we have toys? Do we have a blanket?
Like all about the system, but with that system comes some like really directed, kind of really structured, authoritarian kind of energy, which can be not super respectful of other people's desires or wishes, or even,
experience.
The overall feel for how everybody's getting out the door. So our type 1 child will come in and he'll feel that energy and he'll turn on some music and just know, okay, this is how we're going to lighten this mood, and make sure that fun. There's the auditory, sensory experience of music and how that influences our body, that will contribute for good within that project. And then, our other consoling type 2 child will come in and be putting his arm around somebody and helping them with their shoes, and just
getting in their car
having
seat.
Empathy and reading where they're at and helping them to feel included and a part and valuable. And then we have our type 3 in the family who's like backing up the car before everybody's even inside.
I've only done that once.
Because it's time to go and the action is movement and let's go. And so everybody's getting the message of the car is in movement, and like, what are we going to do about that? And so instead of, earlier in our marriage, having resentment or judgment and saying, just leaving with the car is the wrong way of being, it's not systematized enough, or it's not empathetic enough, or it's not fun enough, that we just recognize that is Dad's gift. Is he, of course, it makes sense. He's getting us into movement. And we still might want to say something to confront, hey, it's probably not for goodness to run over children while we're trying to get into the car, and he be mature enough to not have to reiterate his type 3 getting
or at least shut the door
story, validated enough to be able to say, yeah, okay, I'm going to tone down that type 3 a little bit, but I'm going to start honking the horn, and that we just see the goodness and the value in that. So, into a real estate project, for example, being able to map, what your contractors are like and the things and the energy that they're trying to seek in when you're trying to rehab a house, or being able to see, is my GC, do they have more of an integrator type 4 kind of energy that they understand about being systematized? Is there somebody on the floor that's being considerate of, all of the contractors, or as you're putting a deal together, also being able to see, is there somebody inside this project, or am I bringing the energy of really having integrity over that there's all 4 of this energy being represented, and is there some empathy that is here and thinking about what is for the greater good of everybody involved? Are there some systems that are involved? Is there drive happening? And am I experiencing this? Am I not waiting until the end, but going through and knowing every day of my life is about the experience, which would be our type 1 motivation.
And are you really living in your genius? I think when you really understand your motivation type, and then you can really step into that and live into that, you're going to be operating at your best self, your best level. And so there's parts of the business, real estate, if that's what we're using as the example, where if you understand your motivation type and you can bring that forward, then now you're doing the parts of the business, or you're really clear about what you love about the business, and you're bringing that motivation type, right? That awareness of what it is that makes this special for you.
Totally.
Then you fill everything else in.
Yeah.
Now, I've done that very well in my businesses, where I really do live in my genius in the businesses. And then I get the parts that I'm not so good at, the other types, I bring that energy in so that we've got a really synchronized, balanced type of business model.
Yeah.
And it's worked very well.
Yeah, for sure. Because you definitely want to be in a place where you can see the goodness in the things that you don't have, and be able to bring that to all the different aspects of the projects that you're doing.
Yeah, so I guess, we've gone kind of long on this video, but I think this has been fantastic. To kind of wrap this up, what final thoughts might you have about somebody trying to identify their type? You did mention not having shame around it.
Yeah.
But getting clear on maybe which type you are. I think the examples were really helpful. Is there any other thoughts about how people can have more self-awareness around that?
Yeah, I think it just really is getting down to and understanding the importance of integrity, and the way that you interact with yourself, the way that you sleep really well at night, is by knowing that you are living your truth, and what really does resonate with you and get you going, and what you feel is the most right thing. So practicing, I think, just sitting in anxiety and being able to recognize, is this anxiety coming from me trying to make my way of being and who I am okay with myself? Or is this anxiety coming from growth and like pressuring my story and accepting other people's story? And so just practicing being able to sit in that and feeling really good in integrity, that is something too that is just it's just exponentially going to pay back, because the people that you're around, they sense that you're in integrity, that you're really secure, that you really know deep down that you're genius. That's why this is such a great word.
That's flipping genius.
I know that your genius is what's being presented, and that you're not doing this pseudo presentation in order to get people to accept you. You map that in yourself. It allows you to show up really confidently. Other people map that inside of you. That allows them to be able to trust you in the ways that they should trust you, not in the ways that they shouldn't, because you're being really honest about, these are what my strengths are. And then being able to be humble enough to show that you really appreciate people that are different than you and have different gifts than you. That also really allows people to trust. And when we have that trust and we take away that personal shame, it allows us to be able to see the truth, because shame engages the back of our brain. And when the back of our brain is engaged,
locked down,
no more frontal cortex. You literally, you can't think it through anymore. So
yeah,
I think
awesome.
That's it.
Love that. Well, guys, be sure to leave a comment and let us know what you found valuable and helpful in this video. If you've got questions, any other questions around your motivation type, AnnMarie will be sure to answer on those. And then also let us know what other things you'd like to learn about in this motivation and mindset series. We're going to keep bringing more of these ideas and thoughts and ways of kind of showing up outside of just the mechanics of real estate.
Definitely.
And really just more about why you do what you do, how to show up from the best in you, and really live the life of your dreams. So thank you again. Thank you, AnnMarie. Love you so much. You are truly amazing.
Thank
and we'll
you.
see you guys on the next video.